Welcome, everybody, to another edition of CPG Insiders. I'm your host, Mark Young, with my co-host, Justin Gerard, the number 2 CPG program in the world. In the universe, Justin.
Okay. Well, obviously the universe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. When Elon Musk gets to Mars, he will probably immediately launch a Walmart store.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of Elon and Mars.
What?
So Elon's pretty dedicated to get a man on Mars, I think, by the end of the decade, right?
Yeah.
My understanding, the first people to go there are not coming back.
Good for them.
So, I don't know, who's volunteering for that gig?
Don't know.
It's kind of a weird one, isn't it?
Hey, you know what?
I'd consider it if I can get back.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm good.
Because the problem is you don't have a fuel. There's no gas station on Mars to fuel the rocket up.
Right. Which that makes sense. I mean, I get why they probably aren't coming back, but I think I'm good. I'm good right here. You know?
Now, if I was like 100, 110.
Yeah, why not?
All right, maybe.
You know,
I finish out on Mars.
My wife would have a real big issue with me going to Mars and not coming back. I have a feeling.
Yeah, but I digress. Today, folks, we're going to talk about brick and mortar, and we're going to talk about why almost everybody is doing brick and mortar wrong.
Coming out swinging. Okay.
Absolutely. Right. So here's what it really amounts to, everybody, and this simply this. Everybody is enamored with the shiny thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the shiny thing right now is UGC, user-generated content, and Instagram and Facebook and all of the digital platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And these are great advertising mediums.
Oh, yeah.
And these are great. They're great advertising mediums. But what we have to keep in mind is that there's a difference in trying to advertise something to a website or to Amazon than there is trying to get someone to proactively leave home and go to a Walmart store and walk around shelves and look for something.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see these digital ads tend to be very impulse driven.
Well, not only the ads, but the platforms themselves have been built for that.
Right. They're made about immediate gratification and impulse.
Yes. Yeah.
So I see some video from some guy selling a diet pill, and this looks interesting, and I click it, and one more click from now, and I've bought it on Amazon, and I've got it, and it'll be here tonight.
Well, and again, just high level. For anyone, obviously everyone's in this digital space, but we remember that when we're working with these algorithms, we're giving the platform the event we want, right? We're saying, hey, and e-commerce, we're saying, I want people to buy as much of this stuff at this cost per acquisition. So you're giving the tool, the algorithm, saying, this is what I want. So now the algorithm, as powerful as they are, is going to go find every single individual based on all of their history and all the information they know that's ready in that moment to do the action that you're asking for, because that's how they continue to make more money, is you getting more of what you're telling it to get, which works as when you're talking about direct consumer and e-commerce, because you have direct attribution. And so the model is going to continue to push that, right? So it works very well. But now when you have to send them to a store and there's not a direct attribution, that the algorithm can leverage to say, okay, great, yep, I did do this thing for you. I'll go find more people that did that. Now you run into complications of execution.
But there's even other issues on top of what you just said. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to ask everybody listening to think for a moment, what was the brand that you last saw advertised on your phone? What was the ad for? Now, the chances are no brand comes to mind.
I can't think of an exact brand right now.
Right. Now I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to say, what was the last ad you remember from television?
Television. Okay.
Because the reality is you remember all kinds of TV ads.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of high recall on television.
And that's where this thing breaks apart.
Mm.
Digital ads are not brand building medium. They're response medium.
Okay.
So you don't, like I said, tell me some digital brands that you've seen ads for this week. Nothing comes to mind.
Not specific.
And the reason is because you have this flood of media coming at you on your phone and your computer. And unless an ad immediately speaks to you right now, your brain dismisses it as being noise.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't become brand building.
Mm.
The second issue is we don't trust the internet as consumers, because we know that anybody can advertise anything on the internet. And we know that there's all kinds of scams on the internet, and we see people who, I mean, you've seen the one where you see Sylvester Stallone selling, a testosterone booster that Stallone has nothing to do with.
Yeah.
But people just steal video of him and edit it together to make it look like he's selling it. There's all kinds of that going on online. So people don't have trust in what they see online. People have massive trust with what they see on big television. Because that television has existed since I was born.
Yeah.
And it's a big screen and it's a big network, and only big companies can put their products on television.
And I think that as a whole, customers understand that, yes, you've got these massive networks, and these massive networks, in order to continue to stay in business, because also they're really being watched by the FTC, that they have standards and practices that are in place to ensure that essentially the customer is protected, because they're on the radar, right?
Right. The FCC controls those licenses.
Right.
So we know that the majority of what's on TV is not scamish.
Mm-hmm.
And people trust that. In fact, they trust it by like a magnitude of 7 compared to what they do on a digital ad. Now, the other thing that we have to look at is immediate response versus intent to buy.
Okay.
When we're on that digital platform, I actually had no intent to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading, I was looking at Facebook. I was reading the news. I did not go there to buy anything.
Yeah.
But you hooked me on something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't hook me, I don't know who you are.
Right.
In television, I have the opportunity to build this 30-second relationship with you. The same with radio, same with outdoor, same with print. I have this longer relationship where I'm probably the only message in your face right now, and you're not staring into a screen. You're staring at a big TV screen, but you're not looking at a phone.
Well, what about all the second screening that's going on now?
Great question. So we know over 40% of people use a second screen. The number one activity that people do with a second screen statistically is look up information on the actors in the show they're watching. And I do it all the time, by the way. Did it last night.
just did it.
You too?
Did it. Yeah. Trish and I were watching a new show on Amazon. We're like, who's that actress? And I thought it was this person. And
we did the exact same thing. We're watching a new series on Netflix last night, and it's like, who's that woman playing the president? What have I seen her in before?
Yeah.
So then you're Googling night agent cast president. And so that's the number one activity.
I don't know a person that doesn't share this story.
Now, further down the list is the activity of shopping.
Okay.
About 20% of people who use a second screen, so let's say half of people have a second screen, 20% of them are using that second screen to actually shop products they're seeing on TV.
Okay.
Now, it could be a TV commercial.
Right.
It could be a jacket Jennifer Aniston's wearing.
Right. It could have been part of whatever content they were consuming.
Right. So, or it could be the box of cereal that I just saw somebody eating on a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
But they're looking at things to buy.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20%. Okay. Now, let's back into another number. I always like finding desperate numbers that collaborate with each other, that corroborate each other. 80% of retail happens in a brick and mortar store. Bottom
Purchases,
line.
right?
Yep. 80% of purchases still in brick and mortar. No matter how big digital is, 80% of products are still walking out a door.
Right.
Now, what's the number of people that are shopping on their phone watching TV? 20%. What does that leave us? 80%.
Mm-hmm.
80% of those people are walking in a store. What television does for us is television allows us to explain who we are, explain the problem, explain we're the solution, demonstrate why they should trust us, and to build name recognition so that when I go to the store, I'll remember that brand.
Mm.
So it's not even as much as, and it does happen. In some cases, the customer might decide, I'm going to go to Walmart and get a MyPillow this week.
Right.
But the more likely reaction is, I see MyPillow. I walk into Walmart. Here's a shelf of MyPillows. You know what? I want to get one of those.
Yeah.
Because I have a relationship with Mike Lindell.
Sure.
He's been in my house, 10 times a night.
Right.
So it builds that. Now, radio, by the way, radio is incredibly good for CPG products. Not all of them, but incredibly good for a lot of them. Because where radio skill is, and let me back up to television for a minute. The other thing that makes television work is the majority of consumer packaged goods are going to be consumed in the home.
Mm.
And the closer you can get your messaging to the place where you will consume the product, the better the emotional connection is.
Right. Well, yeah, you're talking about the impact of recency now, which is not talked about enough.
So I am talking about toothpaste. I'm going to brush my teeth at home. I'm home. You run the ad. Or I see your spaghetti sauce commercial on TV, and I'm going to cook dinner at home next week.
Right.
Radio works well because radio is what we call a traffic builder.
Mm-hmm.
So where radio works, and you'll know this, Justin, because we do this with all the radio we do, we tend to use it to drive behavior, not unlike a digital ad is used to drive you to go to Walmart or to go to Amazon.
Yeah.
We use radio that same way.
Yeah.
So we're talking about you have this new product and it's going to make your achy joints feel better. And you can pull into a Walmart or a Walgreens or a CVS now and look for product X in the first aid aisle on the third shelf or whatever the case is.
Right.
So what we're really doing is we're catching people in this drive time. Again, here's who we are. Here's the problem you have. Here's why we're a solution. Here's why you should trust us. And our trust might be 5 million people are using product X. We have 10,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. Whatever the thing is, could be a testimonial. And now we're going to tell them where to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because I'm talking to you on drive time on your way to work or on your way home. And what are the odds that there's not a Walmart, Target, Walgreens, CVS, or a Kroger on your way home?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you work on a farm,
right,
and live on another farm down the same dirt road, one of those retailers is on your way home.
Yeah, and the average consumer, even if we're just going to isolate Walmart, they're shopping, once, twice a week. So there's a good chance you're going to hit them during one of those points where they're running in.
And especially if I have a product that has an immediate gratification thing.
Right.
So if I'm selling you a product, because it's first aid item, let's say I'm selling you the hemorrhoid treatment.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in pain right now, look for Walgreens, Walmart, and CVS and go to the first aid aisle and look for Recticare.
Right.
it's right in your mind. It's like, okay, I can fix this problem in the next 30 minutes.
Right. Right.
I don't even have to wait for Amazon to get it here tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why these mediums work.
Well, the other element, and maybe you were getting to this because usually you are, but I'll start it, is a lot of what you're talking about too. So you started off with the conversation of, hey, here's why from a television perspective it's going to be better for brand building and recall because of these elements, and you did a great job of going over that, especially considering, and I believe you mentioned this, but getting back to it again, that when you're on the television, you're the only ad that's there. So you're automatically going to get higher recall because you're not dealing in a feed where you've got multiple ads. So the recall immediately increases, right? So recall brand building is going to happen better in television than anything else because of those elements. So that's number one. Now, the second element that I believe that we're really talking about as far as what we believe is being missed in a lot of retail strategy, brick and mortar retail strategies right now is I don't believe that a lot of brands today are understanding the value of mass reach as it relates to driving brick and mortar retail. Reach is now a need, right? When you're talking about driving your e-commerce business, especially with where technology has gotten, it's all about the impact of the targeting, right? The ability to get to the right customer at the right time, and technology has made that so much more effective in e-commerce. But when you're talking about trying to drive brick and mortar retail, and especially as a brand, if you're lucky enough to really start expanding your distribution, now you have to be driving multiple retailers. And we know this from our history that customers, and you know it yourself if you're listening to this, right? Just look at your own shopping habits. Every customer is loyal to certain retailers.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to take in consideration that if you have Walmart and you have Kroger and you have Publix and all these things, now you have to have the ability to reach all of those individuals that also shop at all those places. So every time you just hit one ad, 28% or so people shop at a Walmart. So then look at all the people you're not getting, right? So you need the reach to be able to drive all these different points of distribution effectively. Reach is critical as you make this ascension.
And when we look at these broadcast mediums, when we look at things like television and radio, when we buy these medias, we buy them based on what we call a CPM base.
Mm-hmm.
So CPM base is cost per thousand. How much does it cost us to deliver our message to 1,000 people in our demo?
Yeah.
In Facebook and Instagram, delivering to 1,000 people in our demo could be as low as $20, could be as high as $100.
Yeah.
Depending on the demo and what we're selling.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say $40 is probably not untypical.
Yeah.
So you spend $40, you talk to 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
In radio, we talk to 1,000 people for $1.
Right.
In television, we talk to 1,000 people for $3.
Right.
So think of the math. I could spend $40 to talk to 1,000 people with a banner ad.
Right.
Or I could talk to, or put it plain, for that same $40, I can talk to 12,000 people
right
on television with video, audio, music, and I'm the only thing in their face right now.
Right.
So
right.
The math is so tilted against you.
Right.
In this digital model when you're trying to reach mass at mass platforms.
Right.
So digital is really good if you're selling, and again, if you're selling to a real niche industry, digital is great because of the targeting. But if your product's at the top of the funnel, it's hemorrhoid cream, it's My Pillow, it's mouthwash. If it's If you're reaching people that is a mass audience, then the targeting doesn't become a value.
Right.
Because the amount of people that are appropriate for you is too big. So I did some research, and I find this to be really interesting. You and I talked about this last week. The research is, what are the CPG brands that have successfully launched in brick and mortar with digital-only campaigns?
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, it is a very small group of people.
They still did it, but you're right. It's a much smaller list.
And I want to remind people of something, and that is the biggest digital platforms, Amazon, Peloton, Wayfair, all of these brands spend the majority of their money on TV.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they advertise.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the brands that have been successful. Number one comes up Liquid Death.
Yep.
Number two, Olipop,
Mm-hmm.
functional soda.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, Magic Spoon, high protein cereal. Number four is Poppy, prebiotic soda.
Mm-hmm.
Number five is Native, personal care.
Okay.
So what is the first thing that jumps out at you with all five of those top digital brands?
Well, the first thing that popped out to me when you listed, at least for the top four, is we were talking about food and beverage. So we're talking about consumables that are
True.
more likely to be purchased in a retail store than digital, e-commerce.
Yep. But who's the demo there on all of them?
Oh, those are Gen Z and younger millennials, all of them.
Correct. It's a Gen Z customer base.
Mm-hmm.
Even a Gen Alpha
Right. Some of
customer
them,
base.
yeah.
So when we look at this, we're talking about a customer base that is 16 to 25 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them.
The majority of people in brick and mortar are not 16 to 25 years old. Not that those kids don't go to stores, because they actually like stores.
Yeah.
And they've been increasing their visits to stores, oddly enough.
Yeah, I know you were just talking about how the uptick in shopping mall traffic is continuing to rise.
Yes, because young people are learning that they don't have a third place anymore.
Right.
They've got home and school or home and work, but they didn't have a third spot.
Mm-hmm.
So because they're having all the relationships on phone, and they're finally starting to realize that that's not a relationship.
Right. There's not a connection.
So at any rate, when we look at these brands, they're kid brands.
Yeah.
But when we look at a Walmart store, what's the age of the average Walmart shopper? It's about 50 years old.
Yep.
CVS is like 56. Walgreens is like 55.
Yeah.
So again, if your product is right for a Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
and if your product is not Gen Z, Gen Alpha, then the chances are becoming an all digital advertiser and being successful in brick and mortar is not very likely.
Well, even for some of those younger brands, right, and getting back to it, you still want to incorporate some more of what I would say mass media type tactics in your strategy for brick and mortar, and you may decide that, you know what, it's not going linear TV right away, but OTT and CTV is still going to be a better option than just relying purely on possibly some of the purely social media tactics that work.
It's still an in-home big screen single impression.
So you still need to adjust it. And I want to make sure we're also very clear on this too, Mark. We are not here telling you that, okay, great, if you're going into brick and mortar stores, well, you need to cut all your digital advertising.
No.
That is not what we're saying, right? That is not it. Because you still have to align your advertising strategies and tactics with that customer journey. And so you still need to make sure that along those initial lines of going through the discovery phase and the evaluation and consideration, those still need to be nurtured. And even after they saw your TV spot, right? When you think about the customer journey, even going to retail, right? If they've gone through those initial steps and you've made essentially like, okay, I've decided I'm going to buy this item, whatever it is, then think about when you go shopping, right? You still have to decide, okay, when am I going to go shopping? Where am I going to go shopping? Okay, let's make sure I add this to my list. Okay, then I actually have to go to that store whenever that day happened, and then I'm in the store. So there's still at least 5 more steps, right? Before that thing is even in the cart, that you have to make sure that you're nurturing. And so that frequency matters. You still got to stay in front of them. So the digital tactics and capabilities that exist in advertising are still important in your retail strategy. It's just you can't rely purely on them, in our opinion, to be successful in retail like you could when you were in the e-commerce space.
Yeah, you need that mass reach anchor.
Yes.
The ideal situation is you're sitting home, you're watching Netflix or you're watching cable TV, you see my 30-second spot, you pick up that phone to look up the actor, and there's an ad for the same product on your phone.
Right. Exactly.
And that's where that digital comes through, because we can coordinate with where they saw it on TV, then we can deliver them ads because we know they watched that television show. We can retarget them because they've been to your website, so they watch the show and they look at your website. Now all of a sudden we can retarget them another dozen times cheap. So digital has a great support medium, a great support mechanism to build the frequency.
Yes.
The old model of frequency used to be, 4 times. We're now looking at what a lot of people are referring to as the rule of 7.
Yep.
So we know we need to get people this message 4 to 7 times.
Right.
But we don't have to do them all in the same place.
No.
It could be 2 TV commercials and 3 banner ads and 1 radio commercial and the package.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because the package at the shelf is a touch point. It is an ad point.
It is a huge ad point. I mean, we've talked about this, right? So I just want to let's talk about some more math, right? So let's talk about, and I'll leverage Walmart for this conversation. Okay. So let's go through it. So the average customer, as I just mentioned, for Walmart shops once or twice a week, right? Okay, great.
Yep.
So then they're
and number one time is 7 p.m. on Friday night.
Yep.
It's the heaviest traffic day at Walmart.
Yep. So they're in there once or twice a week, right? Okay, great. The average shopping trip, okay, is 20 to 45 minutes, depending on what you're doing, right? Grocery shopping, general shopping, quick run in, but let's just say it's 25 to 45 minutes. Okay, so that's how long they're in the entire store. Okay. Now, the average customer buys about 20 items. Okay. If it's a run in, it's 10. If it's really grocery shopping and fulfillment, it's a little bit over 20. On average, it's 20 items. Okay. We've talked about this before. We've got this math. There are 120,000 to 148,000 items in a Walmart store.
Correct.
So you got them for 20 minutes in a store. They only took home maybe 20 items out of 120,000 at the low end options that are in front of them in the entire
Supercenter's
store.
148.
Right. So this is why we constantly are communicating to anyone who's going to listen. You have to have won that customer before they got in the store. You have to be a destination because the math is against you. Okay?
Yeah, the odds on them just looking at you isn't very good because I can't look at 148,000 items.
Can't do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And think about yourself, right? When anyone who's listening, when you go shopping, are you looking at every single item at every single aisle? And no, you're not. Why? Because you're thinking about the kids, or you're thinking about work, or you're thinking about all these things that you're in there to get what you needed to get and get out because your mind's in 1,000 other different places, right? So the only time that you can try and attempt to convert someone at shelf with nothing else is being done, which I still don't, is one, okay, yeah, if you buy an end cap, you might be able to catch their opinion, but those things are expensive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're looking at $300,000 to $500,000 for 1 month on an end cap.
Exactly. So it's not a scalable model. And potentially, could you be converting consumers if they went for one item and it was out of stock and you're sitting next to it? Potentially, right? That can happen. right? But that's luck. Right now you're hoping on luck. So it's not a winning strategy. You have to have won them, and you have to be the destination when they walk in that store and continue to be the destination. And the other thing that when you talk about these mass mediums with television and things like that, that it provides for you is not only for the first acquisition, but for return purchase, right? It's continuing to develop that relationship and maintain that relationship with them, especially if you're going to be talking about your product that you're in a category that's like food or beverage, where the substitution rate and loyalty rates are, substitution is high, loyalty is low, and it has nothing to do with the product performance. It's just the amount of options and the attention span of consumers. They just tried something else. So
it's amazing how many inexperienced brands I'll talk to. And we'll talk about Walmart, and we'll look at their product and their price point, and I'll say to them, well, based on your category and your price point, you need to sell 2.5 pieces per week per store.
Mm-hmm.
And the inexperienced people will say, that's it? I only have to sell 2? Oh, we'll sell way more than 2.5 pieces without any advertising because our product is so good.
Mm-hmm.
No, you won't.
No.
You'll be lucky if you sell a quarter piece. I mean, that would be a miracle if you sold a quarter piece per week per store without any advertising and support.
Well, you said do the math. If you're in a Walmart, that's what, like 4,600 now locations, give or take?
4,600.
Right. So even if it was just 2 pieces per store.
10,000 pieces a week.
Right. That you have to be selling in those locations and ensuring your in-stocks are correct and all these other things, right?
But people, they don't equate how much effort it takes to move 2 pieces per store.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like nothing.
Well, of course.
I mean, let's look at Kroger. I mean, Kroger has 11 million people a day go through their stores. How could 2 of them not want to buy my item this week?
I know.
That's because I don't care about you. I don't know you exist. And I'm looking at the things I want or the things I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
So those people can go to the pasta sauce aisle where there's 60 brands and they're only going to see 6 because they're only going to see the 6 they recognize.
At most.
And their brain will literally filter all the other ones out.
Yes.
And here's how you can simply do that. You walk into a store like a Kroger, you watch people, you have them buy pasta sauce, you let them check out, you wait till they get to the parking lot, you say to them, hi, but I noticed you bought pasta sauce. What other brands did you see in the store? Ragu, Prego.
Right.
And they run out of brands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I only remember the ones I've already had branded into my head or the one I went to buy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's literally a case of you're sitting on the shelf, you've got your slot, you're next to all these other brands, and people are not looking at you. They're glass-eyed going right past you. Kind of the same way, if you think about this, the same way as we deal with banner ads on our phone for things we don't want or recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't realize the average person in America right now gets 6,000 to 25,000 ad messages daily.
It's wild.
Right. Your brain throws most of them out. In fact, your brain only actually records. And when I say record, doesn't memorize, but your brain only actually acknowledges 12 messages a day out of 6,000 to 25,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have the capacity for any more than that. Your brain can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reticular activating system part of your brain that is there to filter out noise just throws them away. Mm-hmm. The same way it throws away street noise in the background at a restaurant or the fan running in your living room while you're watching TV. Your brain is built to throw unnecessary data out.
Right. Well, it's the same reason why, we, depending on the amount of media and frequency that you have to, you have to refresh your creative because, yep, I've already seen this enough times and I've filtered it out, right? Same concept.
I was talking to Mike Lindell this morning, and Mike was saying how he's been literally shooting a new TV commercial every 2 to 3 weeks because he's running a lot of media, and they get fatigued out within 2 to 3 weeks. They get fatigued.
I mean, he's buying a lot of media,
and he has to replace them.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Now, so as we talk about, right, the work that goes into effectively and continuously hitting the turn rates that you need to, not only to grow your business, but to keep your distribution and retail, it's just a completely different game than when you're talking about your e-commerce business. It's completely different.
It is different. Well, if you are in brick and mortar or looking to be in brick and mortar and you are not turning the numbers that you need to turn, give us a call. We'll show you how to fix it.
Absolutely.
Simple as that. You can get a hold of Justin or myself. You can find us at CPG Insiders. You can find us at jekyllhydelabs.com. And we're always happy to help out. Any last thoughts on this topic, Justin, before we
No, I think this is a great show. And again, I just want for everyone who's listening, like, again, if you're going into brick and mortar or you are in brick and mortar, it is just remembering that you have to build your advertising strategies to maximize the reach and elevate the reach you're currently getting. You have to elevate the points of your contact with your customers to make sure that you're getting the highest recall possible and that you're managing and nurturing that customer journey. So leveraging television, radio, and then your digital elements, it's required to be successful because of these things, because of what the customer and the shopping habits are like and the demand on the business and the turn rates that you need to do in a brick and mortar space. So this has nothing to do with Mark or I saying, hey, we started in television, it's the greatest thing. No, this is just the reality of making this work. It's what has to happen, and it's what all of the best brands that are being successful are doing. So you need to remember that it's not what you have done has not worked. It's what you have done is not going to get you to where you want to go. And now it's time to evolve.
It's constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it for today, folks. If you like today's podcast, please go to wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're not subscribing, hit the little subscribe button. Remember, you can get us wherever you get podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube. And as I said before, you can always get a hold of Justin or myself by going to CPG Insiders or going to jekyllhydelabs.com. In fact, there's profiles on both of us on jekyllhydelabs.com. People can learn more about us. That's it for today. We'll see you on the next episode of CPG Insiders. If you're looking to greatly increase sales on your CPG product, don't hesitate to contact us at Jekyll & Hyde Advertising and Marketing. By the way, the only advertising agency with a guaranteed result. Just go to jekyllhydeagency.com or feel free to give us a call at 800-500-4210.